So, to satisfy some of our own curiosity of the resilience of the ZFS file system in FreeNAS, and specifically this is a craptastic FreeNAS 11 build on a RAID Z1 with some old hard drives, and only 4 gigs of RAM, so we're below the minimum RAM, that way we could load it up. Now we dumped a bunch of data to this, and then we started power cycling it. Well, power cycling it, it doesn't corrupt it. So we moved on to popping the memory out live, and now I've actually accidentally ripped the heatsink off the memory, so it's running really hot and I'm touching components while it's live, and it still works. So we have randomly been ejecting memory for a little while on this thing, and it recovers every single time. Now a little bit of background. Lots of concern, and it's been years. I'm not saying you can't corrupt a ZFS file system. Of course, any file system can fail. Anything can go completely wrong. But we've been trying to simulate something going wrong, and it's proved a really daunting challenge here. So besides just random power offs while we're writing to it and seeing where those files leave off, which of course they do leave off partially, we've also found that if we copy over, let's say, half a gig file, and we power it off the moment that it says it's corrupt, that it says it's finished copying, that sometimes that file gets corrupted. Not every time though. Sometimes the file copies all the way. It's a matter of how many milliseconds after we have it copied that we eject the memory off it. And yes, we've just been ripping the memory right out of it while it's turned on, because I figure that's an even better test, because it keeps the CPU doing whatever the CPU is doing and actually stops some type of the memory from happening. So, you know, it pushes some of the caching into memory while it's doing some of the writing to the disk, or some type of processing that's happening while it's writing it across the RAID disk. Now, this is set up as a RAID Z1. Like I said, that's not a lot of redundancy, and that's all on purpose. We're using some old Samsung 160 gig drives we had just laying around. And as I said, after a lot of playing with it, it's recovered every single time. It turns off every time. We've popped different pieces, the first set of memory, the second set of memory. We did find out if we take out the first piece of memory, like this, a lot of times, oh, it didn't do it this time, it'll actually power off the computer. This time it didn't. But every time, as you can see with the background on the screen over here, the system becomes unresponsive, so we turn it off. We put the memory back in. This is our really heavy-duty testing procedure here. Memory back in, and power it back on. We got sick of turning it on each time with a USB drive when we were shoving in the power pins, so we set it to auto recover on power loss, so we just power cycle it each time. And every time it's come up, we've also been kind of surprised it hasn't destroyed something else on the board. So as a last-ditch effort here to wreck this thing, and we have a feeling this will wreck it, as we might introduce some random voltages around the board while it's writing and see if it corrupts it. And if it destroys the board at the same time, we're curious if we pop these into another machine that we can re-import the RAID array. But I'm feeling pretty confident that we'll be able to do that, because the system is really, like I said, the resilience of ZFS, like I said, it's not that you can't corrupt a ZFS, but as much effort as we're putting into this, I can't believe it's not been corrupted yet. I mean, we have been power cycling this thing, we've been ejecting memory, we've randomly unplugged the hard drives while it's writing and plugging back in, but that's a pretty weak test because they're RAID Z. You know, even unplugging all of them, it just stops whatever those files are on there. So the final test that we want to do before we declare this is we're going to zap the motherboard with voltage randomly on the board. If it comes back on, great, we'll do it a few times. I have a feeling it may not come back on when we do this, and if that's the case, then we're going to take the drives and import them in another board, the same setup, just transplant it over to another board and see what happens. See if the drives all import perfectly fine, and I'm hardly worried about sacrificing these 160 gig drives in this test case scenario that we're trying to do. And specifically, when we do the zapping, we're going to focus on the memory modules. That way we corrupt what's in memory, with the concept of if you corrupt something in memory, it should write the drives wrong and crash all the disks. So that's going to be our next test we're going to do right now. All right, so we got the FreeNAS box. Move your head a little bit, Steve. It's still running. It's up on that screen over there. So yes, it's on the screen. Steve's got science gloves.
And science goggles.
And science goggles.
Safety.
Because now we're going to zap the machine. So let's do a quick zap test. Science.
Science.
He's sciencing. That probably sounds awful. All right, we're gonna science this motherboard, and we're thinking, let's focus on the memory, Steve, because we want to corrupt the memory while it's writing.
Hold on. Hold on. I got this. We're gonna pass it all the way through.
You ready?
No.
No?
Go.
Hold on, let's get the camera close for
God.
this.
I shouldn't be nervous, but I got safety goggles. We good.
Oh, that did shut off the computer.
Okay. Turn it off.
All right, let's power cycle this. Let me set this on. We unplugged, for safety reasons, we unplugged the SSD on here because we didn't want to accidentally destroy an SSD because we're having it boot off of that. But oddly enough, unplugging the SSD didn't stop it from running. That's the boot device.
Why didn't we have it boot off a flash drive?
We just didn't. We installed the SSD because it was convenient. Oh, well, I think that's it for the motherboard.
Give me the...
I'm gonna try and fire it up again. That's it, we killed the board. Let's take this piece of memory out and power cycle it. Was this the last science? Oh, what? Oh, just a flicker. Try and turn it on again.
It's the power supply. The power supply fan stops instantly too.
So it did take high voltage to the memory that we've destroyed the motherboard. So step 2, re-import these drives on a different motherboard, because I think this is, this is fried.
Is it?
So running FreeNAS box, writing hard drives, doing things, and I don't know how many volts that is. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But it's a lot of volts, enough to make a nice arc, and we arced all the way across the board. And we have fried all the logic chips. High voltage failure. All right, step B, plug in other board and import FreeNAS. Well, that did it. This board is won't fried. We swapped it over to the other board now, and FreeNAS, I want to say pfSense for some reason, the other FreeBSD thing I like, is running here, booted it right up, all the files are still there, so even after the, while running high voltage zap through that we did, but we didn't touch the hard drives with it, we didn't want to physically destroy them because, well, that's pointless, but zapping this old motherboard live didn't even corrupt the files, and we were writing files to it again. Everything up until it decided to shut off from the high voltage is still completely on there. I may do some more follow-ups. I don't know how much more testing we're going to do. This is a nicer board, and we don't want to wreck this one. This is actually a board that's going in for another project. But once again, I just am really impressed with FreeNAS. I mean, I do recommend shutting things down properly, but all the random turning on and off that we did, and we're talking like, we've been doing this for a little while now. We spent some time just randomly doing it and randomly ejecting the memory, and we pulled the memory out so many times, like I said, we even ripped off the heatsink on it. So there you have it, FreeNAS running ZFS. This is FreeNAS 11, and this is a RAID Z1 configuration. Super fault tolerant from random turnoffs and random memory removals, and even destruction of the motherboard. We just popped it in over here and brought up the volumes, and works great. So thanks for watching. If you like the content here, like and subscribe. And if you had some other thoughts on other ways I should test this, we probably could dig up at some point. People drop things off for recycling all the time. Some other board that we could do this and say, hey, try this scenario with the FreeNAS system to see if you can, get it corrupted. And I'm curious. I want to know, because it's hard to fault these things. I know they can fail, and I've heard people talk about failures they've had with boxes. But if you have some ideas of how we can corrupt this in some situation that we can come up with, let me know in the comments below. Thanks.